What's up, everyone? Elvin Redwood here, and today we're going to be talking about Nintendo. Specifically, this guy, the Nintendo Switch 2. So, I gotta be honest, it kind of deserves a second chance. But I also understand, and you are absolutely justified in not really being a big fan of Nintendo right now. But let me tell you why I kind of think it's worth it. The Nintendo Switch 2 has some muscle. It really does. I mean, from everything you can see, it is new and improved for the most part. So the screen is a lot bigger. It's a 7.9 inch screen versus the old 6.2. It's a lot more immersive. The colors are better. The viewing angles are better. It is an LCD and not an OLED, but it is more cinematic. And I truly mean that. Like, look at it. The performance is also smoother. It has up to 120 FPS docked and 4K support. Of course, you're not getting 120 FPS 4K. But you also don't have frame drops in a lot of the games that you loved, like Mario Kart and Legend of Zelda. However, things like Cyberpunk 2077 still look bad. I mean, they're better and they look good and they're available on the Switch now, but you're not getting PC performance anytime soon. Heck, you're not getting console performance like from the leading brands like Xbox and Sony. However, they do look a lot better than you would have probably expected previous generations to look like. And they are available now. So something worth noting. However, I did want to touch on this 120 FPS thing. So even when it's not docked, and it is in the handheld mode like this, games do look smoother. I mean, at least 60 FPS. However, when I am looking at this FPS, I'm not sure, or when I'm looking at these frames, I'm not sure if I'm looking at true graphics or true frames, or if I'm looking at something kind of like interlaced at times. Sometimes it really just kind of looks like, have you ever seen like the Sony TVs with their Cinemotion, where they basically make things look more HD and like as if it has more frames than it actually does to kind of smooth the image over? It kind of gives me that vibe. So take that with a grain of salt. If you are a tech expert and you know what you're talking about in that field, if you can kind of give us your 2 cents and everything that you know about, I'd love to hear it. That being said, something that I have noticed with a lot of games is the textures are either slightly worse or the same as the Switch 1, but all they've really given us is more grass and better lighting for the most part. But we do have more frames now, which I think might be a strategic move to utilize more frames and smoother experience overall, while still kind of retaining the same look Nintendo has always had. And I know some people are going to be not very happy about that. Some people are just going to be happy that there's a performance bump of any kind. And if you're like me, you prefer frames over aesthetics anyway, but maybe having the option like Xbox does where it goes prefer performance or prefer quality might be something worth noting for Nintendo for future iterations, or maybe even an update. That being said, the hybrid charm is still here. Like, this thing's awesome. Like, you can toss it on your table and remove your Joy-Cons and play that way. You could use it in the handheld experience. You can still go back and toss it in a dock and play with your TV. So you still have all the options of what made the Switch great, just in a bigger, better form factor. So I do want to talk about the Joy-Cons a little bit and the overall materials on the Switch 2. The screen is bigger. It uses an actual glass screen. Only downside is Nintendo puts a plastic cover on it, which they also say not to remove. That being said, there is already reports of people having scratches on their screens similar to the first generation Switch. So if you are going to play docked, please get a screen protector, like a glass screen protector. They advise not taking off the OG screen protection. I don't know if that damages the console or not. I have seen some people remove it, literally say that they're like gangster or something, and then just pop on a new screen protector. I don't know if that damages anything or not. So just toss it over the regular plastic one. Unless you already scratched that one up, then maybe do some Googling. But everything you do is at your own discretion. So the materials, all the plastic is higher quality than before. All the buttons, including the joystick, are bigger than before. These buttons are actually accessible now by like regular human hands and without the additional dongle. You do have a little mouse sensor there. I don't remember what it's called. I think an optical sensor. And then the triggers and the button, like the right button, bigger. And they're more like ergonomic, like for your hands. Granted, while the joysticks or the Joy-Cons are a little bit bigger, if you do have big hands, they're still not ultimately really comfortable in the long run because of the slim factor. So there are some cases that fix this. And a lot of these cases also have the problem of it's kind of hard to remove and then play like docked if you are using these instead of a Pro controller afterwards. So again, pros and cons to everything. So let's go into talking the nostalgic exclusives. This is the main reason you're going to buy a Switch 2. Let's be honest. You're not buying it for the games that compete in the PC space or other console space if you already have those consoles. But if this is all the money you're spending on a console for the next few years, you're buying it because you want the Nintendo magic. Games like Mario and all the franchises like Mario, Zelda, Metroid. So they're all things that have nostalgia and that remind you why you fell in love with gaming in the first place, for the most part. I know that's why I buy Nintendo things at all, is because that was my childhood. That is what reminds me of the better times, the golden age, if you will, right? So it's just something to note. That is primarily why you're buying this. There are new versions of those games coming out. There is more magic to be expected, but also understand from my experience with new Mario Kart, it kind of feels like same old, slightly new. Even though the new experience is actually good, but just something to note. So let's talk about it. The price point. So this is a huge hike. We went from $300 all the way to $450, and you're looking at $500 if you want it bundled with a game. That being said, that's not the only price increase that you got. And these are price increases that kind of just came out of nowhere, which is the crazy part too. The games are going to cost more. Mario Kart World is selling for $80 instead of the $60 that we're all used to paying, and now the $70 in the current market. We have accessories costing more. You're looking at a camera for $50. You're looking for Joy-Cons at $90, and you're looking at an extra dock for $110. Yikes. Like actually yikes. When you think about it, these docks are not really utilizing like crazy hardware to the point that they need to be costing this much, but whatever. Those aren't the only accessories or extras you're looking at paying. You're looking at getting a exclusive memory type. So you're looking at the SD Express cards, I believe. Not to be confused with the SD Extremes. Those are not what you want to be buying, because those are not compatible with the Switch 2. So yeah, you're looking at a whole lot of monies. So the tutorial also costs money. I almost forgot about that. How could I forget, right? They have a Nintendo Switch 2 like welcome tour, and that costs like $10. So it's not crazy compared to everything else, but still, if Sony was able to bundle it together with the console, I think you should have as well. Social media is obviously going crazy with this, but it is what it is. Is it strategic monetizing? There was no upfront pricing at the announcement. Nintendo expected you to just throw money at it, and a lot of us did. Thankfully, with the scalper market right now, a lot of these Switch 2s that did get bought up are kind of starting to come down in price. People are like, oh, how much I paid for it is basically how much I'm going to sell it for, which is great for all of us. But hey, FOMO got some of us, scalpers got the others, but for a majority of the people that kind of waited out, thankfully there's a lot of stock, and a lot of scalpers are having to basically sell them for what they got them. Some of them, in some areas, they are selling with how much they paid with tax, but that's, hey, if you live there, it's basically the same, right? That being said, free upgrades are limited. So what I mean by that, while Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom upgrades are available, they're also kind of being more so, it's like $10, I think, or 20 for some games. But then not only that, you can get them included, but that's through a Nintendo membership. So they basically upped the online membership from $20 to $50 per year, and they do include some perks such as free upgrades, like that, at least during that. Let's see, what else is there? I don't know, but there is a lot of people that are complaining that the $80 for a AAA game is kind of getting too much. So we'll see how that works in the long run. But for the most part, I think some games like Mario are going to be bundled. And I think future exclusives will probably come bundled like that. So if you haven't already bought into the console, there's a chance that you come when a exclusive that you actually want comes. I don't know. But that being said, should you still care? Yes, but cautiously. The Switch 2 does deliver on everything nostalgia, everything portability, and it does have a nice technical polish compared to the Switch 1. But a lot of it is a lot of the same. Still Joy-Con issues, such as the drift. You still kind of have to worry about your screen getting damaged if you're not putting a screen protector on it. So you still have a lot of that stuff, but it is nicer. The screen looks better. Games actually run better. So there is a lot to love here, but it is a very steep package. So Nintendo's pricing, it's rampant profiteering with minimal transparency. It's leveraging your childhood. Somebody said something on the internet on somebody's video. I think it was weaponizing nostalgia. So that's basically what it is. If you're a diehard fan who needs that Mario or Legend of Zelda game, go for it. If you need to play Breath of the Wild on the best setting possible, go for it. It is basically like a remaster when you think of the experience that it is going to give you. And if you have the money, go for it. But if you're fed up with overpriced hardware, if you're fed up with the game gouging, if you're fed up with gimmicky billing, if you're looking, I don't know, if you're fed up with all the modern stuff that is basically going to keep costing more in the long run if we don't stop buying now, then don't. You know, there really is nothing else to it. I don't know if I already mentioned this, but for the PC people, my only tidbit to you guys is just understand a lot of people don't like tinkering the same as we do. So whether that be the Steam Deck, whether that be just video games that you're playing in general, like for example, I enjoy like modding games. So Elden Ring came out and I played through that normally, but then we found out about seamless co-op later on. So we were able to basically go on Nexus Mods and then download something called seamless co-op, which allowed us to play games online. Well, play that game online together. And that is something that Nintendo obviously doesn't support without bricking your console. But for people that are on PC, just know the reason that this is selling so well is because for people that love Nintendo games on top of the plug and play atmosphere, that is why things like this sell so well. I think part of the thing that made people not buy Xboxes and PlayStations anymore is because those really don't have exclusives anymore, and they already found a way to tap into the PC marketplace as well. Switch and Nintendo but basically don't have that. They are locked into their own little bubble, so you won't ever really expect them to sell the same as the other two, if that makes any sense. So basically what I want to say is if you are a PC fan and you really don't understand this and you might be one of the people that are like, yo, the Xbox handheld is going to completely blow the Switch 2 out of the water. I don't think so. And it's not because I don't want it to. It's just because plug and play is a very big thing. And I know that there's a lot of things that Microsoft is saying and whatnot with running less processes when games are being played and whatnot. But ultimately, when you are thinking about it, if you are running any kind of PC, you are still tinkering, you are still trying to figure out your game drivers and things like that. And of course, that does come with pros. Like we have the ability to choose exactly how much we want focused on textures and things like that. However, just understand my whole perspective on this is simply plug and play is a big thing for people that don't like tinkering, and some people really don't like tinkering. So while me and you might see the benefit to getting a Steam Deck or some sort of portable hardware that has a little bit more power to it, There's a lot of people that don't necessarily see all the pros of that. And there's a lot of people that don't want to spend the extra time on that. Or there's a lot of people that don't have the time that they want to invest into that. They'd rather just pick something up, pop a game in, and have fun and be on their way for the 15 minutes to a couple hours that they have per day to play it. That being said, I love you guys so much. Until the next video, have a great one. If you guys have any suggestions, leave them down below. Till the next one. Peace out.